All right, so we talked about slope-intercept form. Now let's talk about standard form. Standard form is a form that looks like this, ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are just constants. They're just numbers. They prefer to be positive, but in this one, like our a would be 4, our b would be 2, and our c would be 12, and then next to the a is the x, next to the y is the b. Now in this one, a, b, and c don't stand for anything like slope or x-intercept or y-intercept. Instead, it's just a form that says anytime x and y are on the same side of the equal sign. So notice we have our x and our y before the equal sign. That's often what we would think of as standard form, with a couple caveats. These like to be whole numbers, and they like to be positives, but for the most part, let's just think of x and y on the same side is going to be what we call standard form. And so what we could do is when we look at this, we can't just talk about the slope and the y-intercept like we could when it's in slope-intercept form. Instead, what we can do is use something that we call the Coverup method to find what we call the intercepts, the x and y intercepts. Now remember, we could always rearrange this and solve it for y, so move the 4x over, divide by the 2 to put it back in slope-intercept form if we wanted to graph it. But we can use the Coverup methods to find the intercepts. We can find the y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept is where the graph is going to touch this axis, so I can figure out where the graph is going to touch here. And I can also find the x-intercept, so I can also figure out where the graph is going to touch the x-axis. So if I know it touches here and here, I can draw the line. If I know it touches here and here, I could draw the line. As long as I know what the intercepts are, I'll know what the function looks like. Now, when we find intercepts, what we're basing it off of is what we know about at least one of the points for each intercepts, or one of the coordinates. We know on the y-axis, if I'm going to be a point somewhere on this line, that my x value, how far over I'm going to be, has to be 0. I have to be 0 over, or else I'm not going to be on that line. If I was 1 over, I wouldn't be on the y-axis anymore. And so we can use that, knowing that our x value is 0, to solve for what the y value would be. So since x, that's my first coordinate, is 0, 4 times 0 is nothing. So I can just cover it up, ignore it, and then I'm left with an equation that says 2 times something equals 12. 2 times my y value. Remember, in this point, that's the y value. 2 times something equals 12. Now, most of you could probably do that in your head. You would know that 2 times 6 is 12. And so you know the y-intercept is going to be 0 over. I cover up the x, make it nothing. 2 times 6 is 12. But if not, you could always come over to the side and you could solve it. To get rid of a times 2, we're going to divide by 2. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. So we get y equals 6. So we could come over here, and we know on our graph, when we're 0 over, we're up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I could just go up to the y-intercept of 6. And then I could do the same thing for the x-intercept. And then I could figure out where is it going to touch here. So I'll know the line's going to do something. It's going to go through this point, somewhere through the x-axis. Now I know if it's going to touch the x-axis, I'm going to have an x value, but my y value, how high I go up or down, is going to be 0. I know my y value is going to be 0, otherwise it's not going to be on the x-axis. So again, I can use the Coverup method, because if I plug in 0 here, 2 times 0 is nothing. So I can just cover up the y value. That's why we call it Coverup. If I want to find the x-intercept, I'm covering up the y. If I want to find the y-intercept, I cover up the x. So I'm going to cover up the y value, and then I get this equation. Now this plus sign goes with the 2y, so I can cover up the plus as well. And I get the equation 4 times x equals 12. 4 times something equals 12. Again, most of you could do that in your head, know that that would be 3. But again, if you're not sure, you could come over here and just write 4x equals 12 and solve it like normal. To get rid of a times 4, you divide by 4, and you get x equals 3. So the x-intercept then is 3 over and 0 up. So I could come over to 3, 0 and do that. And then I know my line is going to go through those 2 points. So the line is going to look something like that. hopefully a little bit straighter than mine. It's supposed to be a straight line. I just struggle drawing straight lines. But yeah, if it's in standard form, where x and y are on the same side of the equal sign, we can do cover-up method to find each of the intercepts. Or if I wanted, I could rearrange this and get it into slope-intercept form, and I would get the same graph either way. Hope that helps. Talk to you guys later.